All right, we're live. Welcome to the show. What's going on, man? How's your day?
Very well, very well. Just another day in paradise, as they say.
Yeah, how's work been recently?
Very busy, man. Very busy. It was like the end of a fiscal month for us, and it was one of the craziest ones that I've done in the last 2 years that I've been there. So it was a lot of. I think I reached my 40 hours in the first 4 days.
Wow.
So a lot of fun.
No kidding, man.
I know.
How's the podcast going? How's everything going with that?
Podcast is going pretty well, man. I've just been doing I've been doing a lot of been recording some interviews, stashing to put out onto the channel. But the interviews and stuff of the podcast that I'm putting out is just like some of the groundwork building blocks of the channel that I'm going to be building out. The podcast is going to be one aspect of the channel, but there's a lot of other forms of content that are going to be coming on. So just laying it brick by brick. It's been a lot slower than I would have liked it to be, but that alone, kind of doing that process, has taught me a lot about myself. Just learning to accept what is happening, and not being deterred and just kind of getting everything in. So for anyone, I guess, that's listening or is a listener, just be patient. There's a lot more different formats of content that's coming, which I'm really excited about.
Nice, man. Tip the mic closer to your face. Make it like literally almost touch your lip. You should. Yeah, there you go.
Hi.
That's
That
good.
better? Okay.
Oh, dude, you sound that. We need that smooth radio voice of yours, man.
I got a radio voice
I love it, dude.
and a radio face.
Yeah, I always think that about myself too, man. I got a good voice, or I got a good face for radio.
No, man, you're a handsome motherfucker, man.
Oh, dude.
Especially with that beard.
It's coming back.
It's a look. I was gonna say, man, it's making a killer comeback.
It's
very
coming back.
fast. Very fast.
What's
What's going on with you? How you been?
Not bad,
How's work?
man. I've been busy with work. Been working a ton. Going to jiu-jitsu as much as I can.
Yes.
This week, I've really been kind of drained. Actually, I'm stoked though because I'm going fishing with my old man for this weekend for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then coming home on Sunday. So I've just been like jamming all my work and like yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Right.
Just working is like literally around the clock. So
That sounds like kind of the week that I had last week, and I got a chance to kind of slow down, but I didn't go fishing.
oh, dude,
That's too. That's one of your white privilege activities.
dude, it is.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, dude, it is. It truly is.
I mean, where I come from, you fish to survive.
Yeah.
You fish to eat.
Right.
But when we moved here, when I was a kid, you ever see those fishing channels
Yeah.
on TV and stuff?
Yeah. My dad watches.
Okay, yeah. Like, they would come when there was like 24-hour sports channels that started to come on, like TSN, ESPN, and stuff. During the daytime, they would start putting fishing shows, and for the life of us, like we were kids, and my parents and my mom sometimes we couldn't understand why they would catch the fish and then let it go.
Yeah, that's a weird one to me too, man.
It doesn't make any sense.
I don't do that.
They'd catch it by the hook, and then they basically injured the fish and throw it back in there
Yeah.
for your own what?
Yeah, I don't do that.
Okay, so you guys catch and eat.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Then you have my approval.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I only the only time I'll release it is like if it's cuz you can tell sometimes if it's like not big enough, like if it's too juvenile,
Right.
put it back.
Not enough meat on it.
Yeah, it's just like you're not going to feed anybody, you're just killing for no reason.
Right. Let that thing grow.
Yeah.
Reproduce more fish.
And some guys can tell as well if it's like a pregnant doe, like a female. So they'll like send it back. Some guys will actually like keep it and use the eggs inside as bait. I don't know.
Okay, so maybe you can confirm this. Fish eggs, that is caviar, right?
I think caviar is whale eggs.
Okay,
but yeah, you're on the right track.
Yeah, okay, that's disgusting. But
Dude, what do you mean? It's do you eat sushi?
I do.
Yeah, they have They have like
Yeah, like those orange little balls.
yeah, that's fish eggs.
Right. Yeah, I can't believe I eat those.
They're good.
Now that I found out, I'll probably stop.
No, don't, dude. It's good for you.
Says who?
Me. It's probably good for you. Fact check me on this, guys. Come on, help me out here.
Yeah, I'm sure. Speaking of which, man, I'm sure somebody can find something out there to support one way or the other. Like fish eggs are not good for you, and some will find somewhere that says fish eggs are good for you. And I think these days you can almost find that almost on any food.
Yeah,
Food
dude.
diets and stuff is just getting out of control.
It's
like,
nuts.
I understand there's like pesticides and all that stuff. I understand the difference between organic and like, you do your best to eat as healthy as possible. But then you have like those nut jobs. They're just like, it's their life. It's their job to make sure that like all the pesticides.
Like a dietitian, you mean? It's their job?
No. Not that.
Some people, that's their job. Dude.
Yeah. No, I don't mean like that. I mean like the organic police, or like, I guess, might catch some flack for this one, but like, it's the characteristics of a vegan of sorts. They always got to like let you know they're vegan, and they have restrictions and stuff. There's
you
people
can usually tell.
Yeah,
like the sunken in eyes,
they're
low energy,
and they're tired all the time.
Yeah,
they show up ready to
stinky farts. Got the most disgusting farts.
Terrible, and they probably shower with like sand.
Yeah, if they shower. Sorry, vegans.
No, listen, man. I respect anyone's like choice of diet.
That's good of you.
Go ahead. You know what I mean? Do what you want. But as soon as people become militant with it, meaning like they're on the offense about it now, it's just like, okay, calm down. Just calm down. Especially the ones who do it to save the animals.
Oh, dude.
Those are the ones that kind of get me, man. I'll be honest, because this might piss them off, but like, humans have domain over Earth. You know what I mean? Like we are above animals.
Yeah.
It's just the way it goes. It's not fun to hear, maybe, to the vegetarian.
It's a weird concept, though, man, because there is, I don't know how you feel about this, but I can say, like, there is a line that I'll draw. Like...
okay, let's hear this.
Like, I won't eat a dog. I won't eat a cat.
Yeah.
I wouldn't eat a lot of rodents. That's, like, a different line, but it's still, like, part of the line of animals. I don't really want to eat rodents.
I understand.
Probably wouldn't eat a horse. They're kind of cool.
100%. No, I get what you mean. I think
cows, pigs, chicken.
Right.
Most moose, elk, deer, bear. I'll eat all those. No problem. Fish.
Okay, so there's a line that you draw.
Mm-hmm.
Where, like, how do you just draw? Like, is there some sort of consistency in it in terms of how you draw the line? Like, are there some criteria that you have? Because
I just told you.
Well, okay, but like, for example, so you don't eat dogs,
right?
And you don't eat rodents.
Yeah.
Two very different things, very different animals.
Different reasons too.
Right, that's what I mean. Like, what's the consistency in terms of your reasoning? Is there any sort of like common denominators that you have, or is it just like I don't feel like eating that one?
Yeah, that's kind of it. Like a dog and a cat, it's too close to home for me.
Right.
I got pets. Rodents just gross me out. Don't like them.
Right. So do you eat seafood?
Yeah.
Like what?
Anything.
Okay, so let's use crab, for example.
Yeah.
You eat crab and lobster?
Yeah. I'll eat the hell out of those.
Okay, so why they don't gross you out?
No. I don't have any sympathy for like reptiles or sea creatures.
So you have sympathy.
For octopus.
So you have sympathy for rodents?
No, they just gross me out.
Okay, that's what I mean. So
they're disease ridden, dude.
So crabs don't gross you out?
No, they're not disease ridden. They're not disease ridden.
They eat the garbage of the ocean.
Do they?
Yeah. Like, think about it. This is what
it seems more organic. It seems more like an ecosystem. Like rats are kind of like, when I think of a rat, I think of like a New York City dwelling, like eating like toxic garbage of like homeless guys that smoke crack out of light bulbs.
So this is the same way that I see crabs and lobsters.
There's no homeless people in the ocean.
There's homeless fish.
They're all homeless, dude.
No, what I see. Okay, this is why I see crabs and lobsters the same thing, because just like these rodents and stuff, they're just scavengers at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
But just because they're underwater and we bring them to the surface, we
no
kind of
homeless.
forget.
No homeless in their ecosystem though.
Yeah, there is. Like
dude.
I saw. Okay, listen. I watched Finding Nemo.
Okay.
And the goldfish and stuff, they had homes. They lived in the reefs.
The sea anemone.
Sea anemone, is that what they called it? Yeah, the sea anemone or whatever. They lived in the reefs. They had like little, They had fish. There was like these glowy little, I forgot what they're called, larvae. I remember if I remember grade 11 biology properly. There's all that. There's an entire ecosystem. They live there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually things like the the crabs, the ones that can't swim.
Right.
They're the ones who have to find shells.
Mm-hmm.
And they live inside those things.
No, dude. Crabs get born with shells, dude. Yeah,
okay, I'm not talking about, yes. But like some of them, like oysters and stuff?
Sure.
Like oysters are a little... I saw it in a cartoon, The Mermaid once.
Okay.
But oysters are like these little things that they'll walk out, they'll outgrow one shell.
That's a hermit crab, dude.
They're still crab, exactly.
But hermit ones. Even hermit humans are gross, dude. We don't like hermit anything.
Okay, but my point is, these are all like scavengers of the ocean. Yeah. Much like how you have rodents and rats and mice.
Dude, no.
They're just scavengers. Do you eat any insect above ground? I mean, above ground, on the ground? No. We understand.
I would have until Klaus Schwab talked about it, and then I drew the line there. But, I would have.
But it's not.
I eat grasshopper, but once he said that, then I won't.
Okay, but it's not like you're not going to come home and what's for dinner is, fried scorpion or fried crickets.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a common thing.
Yeah.
But for some reason, just because all of that stuff is underwater, if you think about it, if we remove all of the ocean and just take a look at the sea life, it's very simple for me, like what I would eat and what I wouldn't. I'd eat the fish. I'd eat the tuna. I'd even eat the shark. Stuff that had fins that was above the floor of the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Things like clam and I was about to say rats, but like crabs and lobsters. They're just at the bottom catching whatever makes it to the bottom. And what do you think makes it to the bottom? It's all the other fish's feces.
You think that? It might float.
No, I watched Magic School Bus. It was pretty, I saw a whole episode on clams.
Really?
Yes.
And they said that clams are gross.
Yeah, the school, okay.
Have you had clam chowder?
I may have by accident.
It's fucking good, dude.
Yeah, but it's not the clams that make it good. It's all the other ingredients, like the milk and all the other stuff. I don't know exactly what's in clam chowder, but all the salts and your spices. That's what makes it good.
Clam's
all
good.
Seafood is
I'll
like
eat
that.
the shit out of a clam right in front of you.
That's disgusting.
Dude, it
really is disgusting.
No, it is.
Because clams
have you had,
or mussels. You eat mussels?
I'll eat mussels,
Oh,
dude.
God.
Dude,
okay.
do you know how good mussels are for you?
They're terrible.
Do you know how much iron there is in a mussel?
Do you know how much pharmaceuticals have been found in those? Because of the sewage that gets dumped out into the ocean in those same regions, like just down south of Washington State.
They wouldn't do that.
From what I've read,
they wouldn't do
when
that.
they did. You mean send out open sewage into the ocean?
Yeah,
absolutely not. Right?
They wouldn't do that.
Of course not.
Dude, the green bill, is that what they call it? Dude, I know that they have a meeting over in Sweden or Switzerland or whatever, and they talk about
Zurich.
They're saving our environment, dude. They wouldn't do that.
Yeah, so you can have healthy. But even if it's not pharmaceuticals and a bunch of chemicals and open
those are good
feces,
for us.
Of course, and through clams you're getting them for free.
Right.
Well, not really. I guess at the price of a clam, but even all kidding aside, let's say you take out all the sewage.
Mm-hmm.
Even at that point, mussels survive by catching whale droppings and shark droppings and all of that stuff.
Maybe that's where they get the iron from, dude. Do you know how much iron there is in mussels?
Okay, then skip the mussels. Go right to. Why don't you just eat whale feces? At least it's more organic. It's raw. It's less processing.
I'm not eating feces.
That's
where you asked me where
listen,
you asked me where I draw the line. That's where I draw the line. I'm not eating feces.
But
I won't do it.
But listen, man, that's kind of what you're eating when you have mussels.
No.
That's their food,
dude. It's not.
Okay, so how do you make this?
I don't know. I'm not a marine biologist, bro. I don't know.
God, you sound like that lady that couldn't describe what a woman was because she
what
said I'm not a
woman?
biologist.
What is a woman?
Someone who has a clam.
And there you have it, folks. I love how every single episode that we talk about, that we talk about. Like I feel like productive or smart or self-development topics. We talk about challenges that we face, adversities we've overcome.
Right.
And today we're talking about muscles eating shit.
Well, listen, I'm trying to help develop you into like having
a good diet. So you're coming at me a little bit like on the offense about my nutrition, and I feel like earlier you said that you didn't like when people did that.
I see what you did there, but I'm not trying to be offensive.
Well, you are.
No, I'm just asking.
I'm offended.
I'm asking you questions.
Right.
And my question is how, when you, like that example that I gave, if we remove all of the water from the ocean, what you
I think the salt water is a big factor. I think that probably cleans.
Yeah, but like,
cleanses.
listen, man. Listen.
Hey, I got a question.
Let me finish. Okay, let me finish. When you go into, you get that question. Just a second. Hold that thought.
Okay.
When you go and you see anywhere a bunch of rodents or cockroaches or anything, just like in a group, just moving around, does that not look disgusting?
Absolutely.
When they pull up a crab basket when they go fishing, I
get stoked. I
don't see the difference.
I go crab fishing.
I don't see the difference. Maybe it's my brain. You know what I mean? My brain is just too simplistic. To me, I'm just like, okay, creepy crawly things out of the ocean, creepy crawly things outside of the ocean. Same thing.
You ever catch a crab?
Absolutely not.
Dude, that's why.
I've seen them. I would not touch them, man. Some of these things are huge, but I am also
go crab
deathly
fishing
afraid of the ocean.
No, dude, we'll go crab fishing. We'll catch a crab. We'll cook it together. We'll break the shell open.
We should record this.
We'll dip it in.
Record it all
We'll
for
dip it
everyone
in
to see,
hot garlic butter.
Okay, and that's my point exactly. You know what I mean? When I cook a steak, I don't need to add a lot to it. It's delicious. Some salt, maybe a little bit of pepper. You cook it right, and you just chew into that. It's because the food is good. But when you pull out a lot of these, ocean,
you don't put a little garlic butter on your steak.
I might.
A little rosemary.
I might.
A little bit of rosemary.
I might. But the steak itself is good. These are just compliments.
Right.
When you have ocean insects, you add all this stuff onto it because you're eating ocean insects. You know what I mean? You got to throw in some like earth food.
No, you do it because it's good, dude. I add that stuff to steak too, and it's good.
I don't know. I see now. I have a friend of mine that's he was really into like seafood. He's really into eating anything, but like even he has come around to realizing that, hey, and you will come around. Trust me, you will come around once you eventually see it from a clear set of eyes, like I have.
You're ridiculous.
You're gonna see that is all just. It's all fucking ocean insects, bro. They're creepy crawly. Like they all make probably those hissing noises once you take them out of the water, like and tentacles and stuff. I can barely handle lobster now. You know what I mean? And here's the thing: if I go to sushi, like for example, I went to have sushi on my own. Like I went for lunch and I got a box A. Box A comes with rice,
like a bento box.
Yeah, teriyaki beef, 6 pieces of sushi, and then it gives you some. Fried prawn, deep fried prawn.
Right.
Now, prawn, in my book of things, qualifies as ocean insects. Not really
yucky.
Not really into it. And because it comes with 1 piece of prawn and it's seen as the more expensive item, if there's one there, I might chew into it. But recently, I found I've actually been asking them to just replace it with a sweet potato, fried sweet potato that it comes with, and they look at me like I'm weird because. That's the cheaper stuff. But before, I'm not going to lie. You cover it with all that batter, you fry it, and I dip it into some whatever magic sauce they give me. It tastes good. It does taste good.
Sauce.
Yeah, it does taste good. But at the end of the day, man, I just, the mental aspect of it now has hit me where it's like, I just see that as ocean insects. And I can't get beyond it. I can't. I just can't.
Yeah, I don't know.
I bet you Klaus Schwab ain't eating that.
I bet you he is.
I bet you he's
eating lobster. He looks kind of like a lobster.
He looks like a turtle.
He looks
like a turtle.
Dude,
to me.
he does actually.
Right? Franklin's dad.
No, dude, he looks like. Have you seen The Master of Disguise? He looks like that.
I was gonna say, yes. No, 100%. Anyways, I digress. Sorry, your question.
Oh, I was gonna ask where the salt in the ocean comes from.
That's a great question. I have no fucking idea. I was gonna say from all the salty people out there. Like, I mean,
I was thinking that
it's
the
just
other
part
day.
of the ocean. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
why?
Fresh water. I mean, some things are just left for God.
The flat
Or we
Earth,
can go to a
the
scientist.
the flat
Yeah,
Earth,
oh,
and the
God.
salt in the ocean. It's like only God
Well,
knows, baby.
there's salt water and then there's fresh water,
Right.
and that's all I know. The oceans are salt water.
And yeah, you're giving me fucking advice on ocean creepy crawlies, eh?
Listen, okay, based on
When you know about
my
the salt in
perspective
the ocean, you can give me some more advice on salty, watery, creepy crawlies,
Okay,
alright?
first of all, the first thing I have to correct you is I'm actually not giving you advice. Nor am I trying to convince you.
Okay.
You can have all the crab that you want.
So is this
More real food for the rest of us.
So you think it's more appropriate to eat a dog than it is to eat a crab?
No, I wouldn't eat a dog.
Where do you draw your line
On like just the most
on
common
animals that you'll eat?
most your most common eaten foods.
What's
Along
that?
with the pig because I'm Muslim, and so it's just like chicken, beef, cows, which is beef, but yeah, cows, lamb,
You'll eat a
goat,
lamb. You'll eat a goat.
goat.
What about long pig?
That's a pig.
No, dude.
You said pig.
If you know, you know.
What the hell is a long pig?
Google it.
Is that like Timon's buddy? That's a hog.
No.
A long pig.
If you know, you know.
I have a feeling this is probably a nickname for some sort of human.
If you know, you know.
I left my phone in my car. I would have looked.
That's
it up right
good.
now.
I like that.
Shit.
Yeah, dude. So I don't know if I've asked you this before
Fire away.
or this is a perfect segue.
Yes.
I don't know if I've asked you this before or not, or but like what kind of made you start the podcast? I know that recently you've committed a lot more to it.
Right.
And like what kind of made you start the podcast or made you want to double down on it?
Great question. To be honest, when I started my podcast, it was during the pandemic, and I was just I was also going through a transition just within. Like I felt like I was growing and changing.
A lot of people transition over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I was I wanted to make a shift in terms of my entrepreneurial ventures.
Mm-hmm.
Where I was at, I felt like had grown stale. I'd put everything into it, and it was just stale. Like the soil there was no longer fertile.
Mm-hmm.
Fertile. So
I'm glad you clarified that.
yeah, same word, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't see myself growing there anymore. And as a result, and it's not that I thought it couldn't happen ever, but I just thought, I'm like, okay, this is what I see. I need to make a move, and I have always wanted to go into media when I was a kid. My original career path choice, which would have been my dream at the time, was to go into journalism.
Mm.
But I didn't go that route. I went into completely different route, and 10 years later, with technology and the industry and how it's all changed, I realized I can go into it now. It's very easy. Like the entry point is the bar is very low. Anyone can enter. It's just gonna. And I feel like the last 7 years of my last venture that I was in had prepared me with work ethic and understanding. Just building the resilience that you need to kind of build an entrepreneurial venture or a company in the first place. And I started the podcast. I remember my first episode just saying, I honestly don't even know what this is. I don't know what it is, but I do know I just need to start. I knew I wanted to get a podcast going. There was a lot of stuff on my mind and my heart that I just thought I could contribute. And all I knew is I didn't want it to become some sort of advice-giving show. That's not the route I was going, because I think there's plenty of that stuff out there, and I don't know if I'm in any position to give people advice. I just started talking about kind of like my at that time, which was the most big time thing in my life, which was just overcoming the depression that I just had. I had just faced suicidal thoughts and stuff. But long term, I knew I wanted to build a media company, a media brand, and here we are. I think it's 2.5 years later. Finally, I feel like I'm starting to finally build some momentum. Some projects are starting to come to finish, and I had some structure built around. There was some consistency at work, so I could start to kind of schedule these interviews and stuff, and start to put in some work, and just kind of come together that way. But the real And so I've always just wanted to get into media and start a media company. And then seeing what was going on in the world at the time as well, I'm like, this is the time. I feel like there's a marketplace. There's a void in the market for it, and in my mind, I drew up some sort of like a strategy, and now it's just about executing and going after it. So
nice, man.
yeah.
And how have you been? Because I know that you've had a lot of different guests on recently that kind of vary a lot in their experience and their education. How do you choose your guests? Like, how do you kind of go about that?
That's a good question, man. I choose my guests based on really the foundation of my show with the podcast and really the theme, which is that, a lot of these, a lot of shows and stuff, they bring you information and they're trying to give it to you from some sort of perspective that they see it in, right? You'll see some people say bringing you the conservative perspective, for example, in politics or the left. And whatever their perspectives might be, right? From a male perspective, female perspective. My motto really is I want to talk about everything and almost anything, but let people see it. It's like the one media platform that hopefully lets you see things through your eyes, through the viewer's eyes, where they can start to see the things and really understand why they see it the way they do. Versus I'm not really trying to get people to look through it from my eyes. I just like to ask people questions. And even my guests who sit across from me, I want to ask them questions in terms of the information that they give, but I really want to understand how they came to believe in those things and why they hold those perspectives. And really the whole thing of is just really getting people to see themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you think that
I don't know if that answers your question though, how I choose my guests.
Yeah, kind of I guess maybe you can elaborate on that more, but it's yeah, I guess you can elaborate on how you choose them.
The guest selection is very simple. I just there's people that I follow. There's such as yourself. I observe some of your stuff long before anyone that gets an invite from me. They should know that I've been observing their stuff long before the invite came. I try to understand, and then naturally questions will pop into my mind that I just want to know about them. And I'm like, okay, this is a good time to send out an invite. I don't just invite somebody because they have a huge bunch of followers or I think they can give me clout or stuff. I don't do it that way. I just see what kind of conversation I can have with them on camera, on the pod, and base it off of that. I've had some people ask if they can be on the show and whatnot, but I'm just I politely just tell them, I don't know what we're going to talk about. I really don't know. So there's no point in me trying to.
Oh, bro.
Yeah.
I've done that a couple of times where I let someone come on when they ask.
Right.
Oh, man, what a headache that can be.
Yeah, so let me ask, how do you choose? Yeah, I'll fire that at you then. So maybe you can elaborate on that experience and then how you choose your guests.
Yeah, I find that when someone reaches out, there have been a couple that I that have reached out and they're like, hey, we should chat on the podcast, blah, 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 blah. And I know it'll be good, or I've been meaning to ask them and it keeps slipping my mind, or we just always have good conversations and I'm like, okay, yeah, I vibe with this guy, I'll have him on.
Yeah.
There's been a couple times where someone will reach out and they'll be like, hey, we have to talk on the podcast. And you can kind of just get this hint of it almost seems like they just want people to listen to them.
Yes.
And I'm like, I usually just tell them oh, bro, you should start your own podcast.
100%.
That's 100%. Usually what I say to them.
100%. Because honestly, I don't think people appreciate the amount of effort it takes to get something like this going. Even if you're not getting a lot of eyeballs at the beginning, it doesn't matter. There's still a tremendous amount of effort that goes into it. And I know what you mean. People they see it. They see that you put in the effort, that you put up the money to get the equipment, you put in the time and the effort, and you got a bit of an audience going, and they just feel like they can jump in because they want to be heard. I appreciate if somebody's going to, let's say, want to be on the show, right, and they want to reach out, and if you come with a much more clear and concise messaging, like, hey, I want to be on the show because there's something I want to promote, there's this or that, that's much more effective than just saying, hey, let me be on your show, I want to talk about this stuff. Is like, make your intentions clear. It's not to say that that's going to give you a yes, but it's a much more appropriate way to approach someone versus who's putting in the effort to put these things out there. And, you know, and you just think you can just come on there and be like,
yeah,
I want to be heard about what?
Yeah, typically I have to already have been like following the person or know, like usually like if there's a mutual friend, obviously that helps. But if someone like approaches me like that, if I'm considering it, I'll usually just tell them like, okay, yeah, give me a call and I'll talk to them on the phone. And if it's like a difficult conversation, it's an instant no.
Yeah.
But if I start vibing with the person, if I start like actually understanding, okay, yeah, I like the way that they have this cool story or that there's this thing, like whatever.
Right.
But yeah, usually I have to have a genuine interest in talking to somebody.
Yes.
And if they don't energize me, they don't like actually like make me excited, then there's no way I can have that on the podcast. Because a lot of my interviews or conversational episodes end up going for like an hour plus.
Yeah.
And so like if I have to try and muscle my way through that, or if I have to, you know, like if I find myself like dozing off.
Right.
Dude,
have you had episodes like that?
Bro. I think the funniest one I ever had one time.
We're not gonna name names.
No. There's this one time that I had a Zoom interview.
Right.
And it was so boring, man, that I was literally playing Pokemon on my computer while I was on the Zoom call.
Right.
And I was like, I gotta cut this short, dude. I'm literally playing Pokemon while I'm on this Zoom call. Like, I'm like, man.
Yeah, and that's why I'm very selective of the people that I want to speak with, because I want to avoid that.
Yeah.
And it's because it's also, listen, I want to go into the media game, right? I want to be in the media space and turn this into a company, something big. Like I have a vision for it. I'm not going to put all that stuff out there, but like that's my vision. And in order for it to do that, if you're in the media game, you have to immediately understand that your customer is your audience. They're making the time. If they're going to make the time to sit in front of their TV or when they're driving, they're going to turn your podcast on or what you're saying. They're going to start listening to you. It can't just be a conversation between two friends talking shit. And there's a lot of people who just think like, you know,
it can sometimes, because sometimes it's funny. It can.
Well, that's okay. So if it's two friends that are really hilarious, you know, that's what they provide. It's a lot of comedy. But I know a lot of people who just, I shouldn't say I know a lot of people, but I think there's a common notion that like people who sit down and they have good conversation amongst friends, it's like at a party, maybe they're just gathering around having some drinks, a cigar, and just an amazing conversation. Everyone just throws that out there. It's like, hey, we should have a podcast.
Hey, we should have a podcast, bro. Oh, yeah. Bro, we should have been recording this.
Yeah, it's as if like some of the stuff they've just said has never been said before.
Yeah.
And it's not that simple. It doesn't work like that. To sit and have a 1 hour recording on a podcast, it's a little bit more than just, you know, sitting with your friend and shooting the shit. You know, especially if you want it to grow and develop into some sort of media brand of sorts.
Yeah.
And I think that that notion exists because when this was in its infancy stage, there are people who could do that. They did do that just because the space was so open.
Well, look at Joe Rogan.
Right. You got to understand, he started doing that in like 2011.
Or like Andrew Schultz.
Yeah, people did. But Andrew Schultz is hilarious. He's a comedian. You know what I mean? He's been out there. He's done stuff. You know what I mean? And he already had an audience. And that now he's attracted some of those eyeballs onto his podcast. As a result, now he's also gained a new audience from YouTube as well, who now come to his shows. And those people who come to his shows from YouTube now go to his shows. The people they watch him on YouTube, and he's expanded it that way. And Joe Rogan, I mean, he started that out when he was like in 2010, 2011?
Yeah.
Before people even knew what really a podcast was.
Yeah.
So he's had a 10-year maturation. You know, that's 10 years of really solidifying a lot of episodes. He's been doing it. But having said that, though, he's a phenomenal interviewer. There's a reason why he's one of the best in the game. He didn't just sit across his friends and they just shoot the shit. He's a great listener. He can poke at you. He can ask phenomenal questions, and he'll get his guests to speak on topics in a manner that they probably wouldn't have done if they weren't sitting across from Joe Rogan. That's why he's one of the best, and he has a huge audience. But you have to bring something to the table. Sitting across someone and just saying, "Hey, yada yada," and you're not going to be good at it right away, obviously. But you have to have some sort of plan and execution that you want to execute on. Just sitting across the table and just starting a podcast with your friends because you thought you were having a good drunken conversation is, I think you should look for it. You should have a little bit more, more tactical, strategic approach than just that.
Were you nervous when you did your first interview?
Yeah. Yes, I was very nervous, and there's many reasons for that. But it was just probably. But the thing is, I wasn't that nervous. Because I had done interviews before. I had spoken on stages before. I had introduced people, introduced panels and stuff. So I had become fairly comfortable and accustomed to being in front of a large audience. And the reason why I became nervous during the interview was, to be honest, is there was nobody else in the room except just me and him. And I found that I really was used to feeding off some of the energy off the crowd. I love being on a stage where there's people. It's a lot more fun. I found there's a lot more energy to feed off of. But when you're just there by yourself, like in this type of environment, it was new to me. Mm-hmm. And especially when you ask a question and you thought you'd get a little bit more of a run in terms of an answer, but they give you a one answer, and you're just and I was so amateur, right? I'll be looking at my next question, and my goal was just to get through the 11 questions that I have, and it took me out of the conversation. There's just a lot of stuff going on in my head, but I think but you just get better over time. So yeah, but I was a little nervous, yes.
Do you still feel that way when you do interviews?
There's always a little bit of nerves before I go into a conversation. There's always a little bit of nerves, and it's because I want to do well. I want to develop my brand. And I see that as a good thing. I don't like going in there feeling nothing. I feel like it's a little bit of a limp dick approach. I want to be. If I have a little bit of nerves going, and I know there's a different type of nerves. I like to be prepared when I go into my interviews.
Yeah,
it calms my nerves down. Those those nerves that'll pull you out of a conversation. You're just too nervous to do anything. Mm-hmm. I'm not that level of nervous. I'm talking about those kind of butterflies before you're about to do something exciting. I always had that when I played sports as a kid and all that stuff. It's more so that feeling. I like to compete.
Yeah.
And so when I get on an interview, I'm just this is my name. This is my name on it. This is my brand. This is the thing that I want to do. So there's a little bit of nerve. I want to do well, and I want my guests to feel comfortable. And I just say a quick little prayer or whatnot in terms of my intentions, and then just run with it. Once I'm in the interview, no, there's absolutely zero nerves because I enjoy talking.
Yeah. Do you say a prayer before you record?
Yeah, to be honest, prayer. It's just a brief little moment of silence and just really becoming clear on I guess the intentions that I set for the conversation. I try, and that might not be the right wording. I don't have an intention of trying to steer the conversation in a particular way. I just want to allow the guest to drive the conversation, but I just want it to go well. That's really all I say. It's dear Lord, just let this thing happen and have it go well.
Nice, man.
And if well sometimes means someone gets pissed off and they walk off, then that's that too.
Have you had that?
No.
Oh, I was gonna say, dude.
But that's also because I've not had anyone that. Actually, I have a question for you after, because I assume you follow some of my stuff on Instagram, but it's probably also because I've never really had anybody.
What's the question? Can we have it on here? I'll cut it out if you want.
No, I'll ask you. It's for the pod, but it's a little bit of feedback for me. Just because one of my friends said something to me, and I'm interesting, about my Instagram. And but I had a thought, but let's just jump into the question. I lost the thought. I guess when you watch some of my Instagram stories and some of the stuff that I post on there, to you, is it fairly clear in terms of what this person kind of stands for and what kind of a caricature this person is?
Yourself or your guests?
My Instagram.
Yeah, I would say so. Why?
And what would you gather?
I think that when I look at your social media, because it's hard for me because I've had so many conversations.
Right.
With
You know me off
yeah.
social media, and if we can maybe. Okay, I'm gonna sound. I can't say this word, man.
Try.
Sound it out. But
Try it.
This is always just compartmentalize. Compartmentalize. There you go.
That's the word of the day, baby.
Yeah, I stumble through that one. But
I can't spell it, so.
Good luck if I had to try. But I'd probably start it with CUM. P.
You'd be close.
Compartmentalize this part of your brain where you just kind of isolate how you know me off of social media. But do you think is that different versus how I am? Like,
I wouldn't say it's different. I'd say I just get a clearer picture.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like from what the way I would describe you, I don't know if it's just from what I see on your social media because we've had so many conversations.
100%.
But I feel like I might not be the best person to ask because I don't really consume that much on social media.
Right. So what you're saying is I don't really watch your shit. Fair enough.
I don't watch any shit.
No, I'm just playing.
I don't watch anything. But I would say that the posts that I can remember seeing, the stories, that's one thing I'll say is everyone should post more,
right?
And consume less,
right?
I'm a big advocate of that.
But doesn't that just create like a stock market where everyone's just selling,
Yeah, sell away, baby. That's how you make money.
Right, but then you got no buyers. You know what I mean? Everyone sells out of fear because there's no buyers in the market.
No,
right? So
no,
you sell off.
Dude. There's enough people out there that all they do is consume.
Right, but what you're saying is you're telling those people to stop consuming and start producing.
Yeah, they'll have a better time.
Right, but if we get everyone doing that,
I'm just saying, meet people where they're at. If there's enough. The thing is too is like this is my funny way of looking at it is like the people that are on social media just consuming and consuming and consuming and consuming. That's all they do.
Right.
Their mental health is probably not in the best place. Agree or disagree?
100% agree.
Well, and what's my main topic and, my main demographic?
Right, is mental health.
So I'm just trying to meet them where they're at,
100%. No, I understand.
You get what I'm saying?
No, that's for. Oh, I see what you're saying. For your audience, definitely. I think that's phenomenal advice. Almost anywhere, even off social media.
And I think
start giving, start putting out instead of always just taking in.
Yeah, I mean? Create, don't consume.
Yes.
But I think that your brand is, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think that your brand is a lot of also trying to get people to. Like I think we align in the areas of like I want people to understand themselves. I want people to.
That's where I think our cross section happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. 100%. Like it's like I want you to understand yourself and the universe, the world, and your purpose a lot more clearly, and to be able to, like you say, everything you got, to be able to get the most out of life.
You must empty the tank.
Right.
Everything. Right.
And I think that a lot of the time. Like what I would say about your presence, whether it's on social media or outside of social media, is a lot of, trying to get people to like kind of wake up a little bit more to see the big picture and to stop just consuming the lies and the deceit of being content with what we're given in terms of media and in terms of like even the discussion we had earlier, like we were clowning each other a little bit, but it's also like pay attention to like what you're putting in your body, pay attention to 100%. What you're consuming
100%.
And I think that that's kind of where we align and the way that I see your brand and my brand kind of coexisting.
Yeah, no, 100%. And the reason why I was just curious about what you thought is because I had a friend. Sometimes I think you might see that I put like those Instagram stickers that all of a sudden seem really out of line with usually what I say. Mm-hmm. For example, I'll put up like "Let's get vaccinated" stickers.
Yeah, let's do it. Right. I got 6 today.
And then I put up like I support Ukraine stickers.
Of course.
And I had a friend of mine. The sarcasm always catches me. It's the I had a friend of mine, even though I know it, but
what sarcasm?
I had a friend of mine was telling me, he's like, sometimes he's telling me, he's like, he knew some people, they're like, yo, he's like, so I get a little confused sometimes, It's like, does he not? Like, he says one thing, but then he puts up stickers and whatnot. And when I heard that,
They don't get that?
yeah, apparently not. But that's totally fine by me. And in a sense, man, honestly, I was kind of happy to hear that, because that's also part of my goal on there is I don't want people to think they know me fully just off of watching my social media.
But that's
just
why
like you were saying.
But that's also why they follow you. It's because they don't. The thing is, dude, and I think that this, because I think I get where you're coming from,
Right.
and I tried doing this with my social media. Like, you'll notice I have a personal account and I have my podcast account.
Yeah.
And I try and keep them as separate as possible. But to be honest, I rarely even go on the personal one.
Yeah.
I do have it. And if I'm going to be consuming social media, that's where it happens, because I follow a lot less people, and it's mainly just people I know in person.
Right.
And I think that when you're building a brand, or you are building a business, or you're building a podcast, or you're building anything like that, it's important to understand, and this is the way I think, is that people like people. They don't like businesses. They don't like, when you hear about businesses, you like, fuck that business.
100%.
But when you hear about like a mom and pop shop where the owner, you're like, fuck yeah, I'll support that person. Like, people, when they get to know you,
right,
they fall in love with you. They don't fall in love with your business.
Brands or ideas or movements.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, 100%. I was actually just going to say, I think if you're probably better off almost blending your personal and your podcast page together, because, people want to see your personality before they want to see the brand. Because you are what you are essentially behind the brand, and that's why I've kind of kept mine the same. And I know it's people. I get more engagement and interaction in the DMs off of stories where I'll just kind of like speak on camera about a random topic and just kind of share something.
Dude, and I love those rants that you do, man. Yeah. I fucking love those rants that you do.
Yeah, every now and then it's also therapeutic for me, because I'm insane person in a sense.
But dude, yeah. I think anyone who just talks to a camera or their phone, like, I say that on my podcast all the time. I'm like, I'm also a guy that sits and talks to my phone for hours a week. Right. So well, take what I say with a grain of salt, right?
I mean, you're talking to a phone technically, but really it's a medium where you're speaking to some people.
Yeah.
But to the point of that is just like, when I found out that people sometimes are a little bit confused about exactly what I say, it's like, that's perfect, because that's exactly the way it should be. You should maybe have an idea of what Hussain says, or I like this, blah blah blah. But people should understand, no matter who it is that you're following on Instagram, no matter how big they are, what they post, how much of what appears to be their personal life they're revealing, you will never know them fully until you have a one-on-one conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Ever.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance to people that we forget 100%.
About. And it's almost like it's so, and that's part of the rift that I think the people that our world is kind of in, is that so many people feel like they know someone because of a post or a rant or some sort of, they talk on camera. It's like, you might have an idea of who they are, but you won't know them until you have just like the old school days, man, a one-on-one conversation where you get to see what makes them tick. Like, you tell me what you think about this. I saw this person had like 50,000 followers or whatever, and they made a post, and they're fairly popular, and they're like, anti-woke, total anti-vaccine type of page.
Nice.
And someone made it.
Maybe I shouldn't say that yet.
Yeah, well, I don't know, but I forgot what the post was, but he was just commenting. I said a he, but they were just, it's a they. I don't know what they identify as. But they commented on.
Did they say they were they?
Actually, I don't know. I don't know. So we just have to assume that they are who they are.
It
for now, until we see their pronouns. I was about to say acronyms, but pronouns. But they were responding to a message someone said that, hey,
let's say he.
that, like,
let's
yeah.
say he.
Okay, he said that. Whatever, man. It's it's so stupid. It's so stupid. Can I just go on a rant? I'm so sick of this shit, man.
Dude,
I'm
it's
just so sick of it. Are you not? Are people not just done with this fucking he, she, him, they shit?
It's comedic.
It is comedic, but like it's only comedic if it stays outside the walls of our, legislative assembly.
Yeah.
And now it's like
That's what makes it funny, though, dude. I like it. I like it.
It's not funny anymore.
And let me tell you why I like it.
Okay, go ahead.
I like it because it's so dumb that it's funny.
Yeah, but it's coming at the cost of, like, it's costing families and children.
Who?
You know what I mean?
Who's it costing?
It's costing, I think, young children their innocence.
Well, like how? What part? Because I think that even kids are like, dude. I think that even kids are like, dude,
it is funny.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, maybe teenagers.
Right.
But I think if you have kids in elementary reading books on, like, oral sex and all of this
That's
stuff,
different.
that's different. And you're indoctrinating.
Yeah, no,
And-
that's grooming for pedophilia.
Right. And it's like, I think people have to, I think a lot of people are assuming that it's not happening as much as it actually is. And they're kind of turning away. But I don't know when this became okay. I don't know when this just became an all right thing. I read a story, this was last year. This was local, right here in Abbotsford. At least this is the one that made it to the news.
Dude,
there's so much stuff that didn't come out. But a teacher gave an assignment to third graders to draw a map of their house and then to locate the places inside their house on this map where they can go and masturbate. Third graders.
They did what now?
Yeah.
Dude.
And number one, this
So
teacher,
where would you put in your book? That's so wrong. Dude, it's so wrong and evil. But where would you put? Just out of curiosity.
Well, I mean, I can't give away my secrets,
Right,
but
right,
I live on my own now.
Right.
But in third grade, I don't know, man. I don't know if I had a location.
Yeah. I don't think I was. I think I waited until 6th grade.
Ooh.
Probably
A late
till I
bloomer.
Till
No, I'm kidding.
I started tugging on my peen. But, dude, I got some crazy stories, man.
Fire away.
My buddy of mine, and he actually has his own podcast. I'm not going to name names or anything, but he's got a couple kids, and he said that one time his kids came home and they had an assignment in, like, grade, I'm going to say, let's say 4. And they had a assignment where they had to take fairy tales and talk about how they were based in misogyny or racism, and they had to pick apart and make them more politically correct, for lack of a better term. Like, so for example, like, one of the things was that Sleeping Beauty needed a man to come and save her and kissed her without consent and all these different things, dude. And then I had another friend of mine who has
I guess technically from that perspective, she was sleeping. So
okay, yeah.
yes, but.
Dude, I had another person I knew that has a kid in kindergarten where they were teaching them about
and this is here local to us.
Yeah, in Vancouver.
Insane.
Dude, I had someone I know has a kid in kindergarten, and they had a kid, their kid came home and said that they were kind of talking about what they had learned in school that day, and they were saying something about, like, but I don't think I'm racist. And then he's like, what are you talking about? And he said, well, like, I like the chocolate kids. And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he's like, well...
He's saying this to his dad?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
It's like a 5-year-old kid.
Right.
And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he's like, well, my teacher was saying today that, like, there's all these different colors of kids, and that I'm a white kid, and that we're mean to the other kids. And
right. See, this is the stuff, man. Honestly,
I'm like, dude, how evil is it to
well,
tell a 5-year-old kid that he's a racist?
it's just this is the stuff that like,
Or how evil is it to tell other kids that because of the color of their skin, other people aren't going to treat them fairly?
yeah.
How does that skew the lens that they view the world?
Forget about skewing. It alters your entire perspective on what you're going to see for the rest of your life.
That's what I'm saying. That's
right?
what I'm saying.
All you're going to see is color. And not just regular colors, but colors of people's skins. But that's exactly my point. When, like, you said that this is local right here.
Yeah.
I know, I have friends of mine, they have children, right? They see it on the TV, but you see a lot like, oh, it's going on in the States. America's gone wild or whatever. It can't possibly be happening right here. And the fact that people assume that it's not and they have children, like I can't imagine like me having kids. I don't know about you, but if I had kids today, I don't know if I could trust sending them to a public school.
Oh, dude, we had this conversation in my mental health group today.
Right.
Today, we talked about this
Right.
because someone is moving from Alberta to BC, and they were asking about schools in Vancouver.
Right.
And there was like quite a few people that were like, just homeschool, man.
100%.
Well, unless you got the money for like a private school.
Yeah.
And even then,
if you can like put it down like in a sports analogy, I think what's going on in schools is if we were a basketball team, like the coach used to start with drills like, okay, we're going to work on our dribbling. We're going to work on our shooting. Everyone gets a layup. Versus now it's like, okay, we got to make sure the black kids score 20 points.
Oh, they will.
You know, the brown kids get 15 points.
They probably will.
And we got to make sure that we have 3 white kids that are water boys.
They will be.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the goal. It's not even about winning. It's
you
like,
should pick a different sport because that's kind of how basketball works.
Okay, fine. Let's pick hockey because it's a very, very white dominant sport per se.
You're sounding liberal, but okay.
It's white dominant, bro. I just watched the Leafs game yesterday. Killer win, by the way. I bleed blue and white.
It's funny too because you love hockey more than I do.
100%. 100%.
Yeah,
you actually call it. You call it sports. Let's have that conversation after this because that's a bone to pick with you. I don't want to talk. But anyways, it's like having hockey practice and the coach is like, okay, we got to make sure the black kids score 3 goals every game. It doesn't even matter if we win or not. And we got to make sure the brown kids get X amount of assists. The goalie has to be this. The water boys are white. It's like, imagine if that was going on at your hockey practice. Like, what would you think? That's exactly what's going on in schools. They're not the dribbling and the drills. The fundamentals are what? Math, reading, writing. I interviewed.
Math is racist now. Sorry, keep
listen,
going.
Man. I interviewed a professor from SFU, and when we opened up, the first thing that he mentioned to me was absolutely stunning. He said, the students that they're getting that are coming through the university now, on average, have maybe at best a grade 9 to 10 reading level at university. This is being done on purpose. How is it that the average student that's coming into university, and he said they're actually getting him to start teaching a writing course at the university to get everybody's reading level up to par. Think about the resources. You know what I mean? And parents are just assuming, well, they're in university now, so they're smart. You know, they'll get jobs. Parenting has become a novelty almost. It's a much more Instagrammy family pictures type of we're on vacation deal versus, being a parent is a task. It's a lifelong task. And people who, getting these babysitters and like needing a break and like reading all these books on how to like, decompress from being a parent. It's like, why not put all that energy into your child? I mean, I know it's a lot being said coming from someone who isn't a parent, but I help raise my younger siblings. I think that gives me a little bit of qualifications. So
Yeah.
I don't know, but I don't know, man. It's getting out of control with this stuff. It really is. And I think that right now there's already, I think at least a decade and a half of damage done. That's how long it's going to take to kind of reverse course, to kind of bring us back to par.
You're optimistic, man.
Very, but I think it's possible. I do think it's possible. I really do. I think it's even possible to do it within half a decade. But we're going to have to correct course immediately. And the only way that happens is people like you and I, or anyone who has this type of insight and foresight. You have to start getting involved. You have to start getting involved in life. And this is that whole, like, we're talking when I came out on Sunday, the term, was it? Controlled opposition thing comes from. And this is my issues with conspiracy theories these days, is people go way too down the rabbit hole and they start to think about this concept of controlled opposition, and there's this overarching control system that controls everything, and it starts to make you feel really limited and small. It's like, listen, Alex Jones is not the controlled opposition. Andrew Tate is not the controlled opposition. Pierre Poilievre is not the controlled opposition. The controlled opposition is you and your brain, who feels like that they are completely powerless to the system if they go out and vote or get involved, because there's this overarching, destined, future that we have.
That's like the black pill.
Yeah, that's not going to, you can't alter it because, the elites are this, elites are that. It's like, no, you got to get involved. And it's the philosophy that when my knee blew up and I was like bedridden, I was like, okay, I can't walk on this. I obviously can't jump and play basketball. I can barely move, but I will do what I can. I cooked for myself at my house. I made sure, like, I had crutches. I did everything. And this was even, like, my mom would want to come by and do all these things, but I just refused. I'm like, I can do these things at least with crutches. I will do what I can. That's the philosophy that I have. Do what you can. And if all you can do right now to, I guess, kind of counter the culture is have an awkward conversation at a dinner because your family member doesn't agree with you, have the conversation. Have the conversation. That's what's needed. You guys have discussed the weather enough. Everybody knows what you're doing for school. You know what I mean? They probably understand. But, like, if it comes up, I'm not saying go in there and be combative and all this stuff. But if it comes up, whether it's religious or whatever, at least understand your differences. Have these awkward conversations, because the more that people stay silent at home, that's where the divide happens in the first place. Everyone goes off about, they're just using divide and conquer, not realizing you're playing right into it. You're literally divided and conquered already because you don't even want to speak to somebody at home. And this is my point when I was, I know I'm going off a bit of a rant here, but
no, I like it.
To come back to that conversation we were having about the guy on Instagram, for the audience who probably wondering what happened to that. This guy was responding. Someone made a post. It was like, I think it was like, the people who were mean to you during the original lockdowns, who are now coming around and they're like, becoming friends again. He's like, just a warning that if this happens again, they're going to cut you out all over again. And the guy's response, who's
that's
page
what you reposted, or that's
no, that's what the meme was.
And someone posted.
Yeah, I think that I'm paraphrasing, but that was the nature of the meme.
Right.
And the guy whose page it is, who's a fairly influential person, who's a 50,000 plus, he responded to that particular meme. And his response was, he's like, that's pretty funny. You're right. They might, but he's like, it's not going to happen. You know why? Because they're not my fucking friends anymore. And I'm like, and then underneath the comments, you got all these people clapping and yada, yada. Yes. Hell yeah. You know what I mean? I'm going to surround myself with people who support me and yada, yada, and all that stuff. It's like, can't you see that you're being the exact same thing as the other side? You know what I mean? They found it so ridiculous that someone who cut them out because they didn't get a jab and don't want to be friends with them anymore, yet because they didn't like you, you're just going to behave the exact same way.
Yeah.
It's like you're playing right into it. If someone wants to be, if someone cut me out, and I had people who stopped talking because I didn't get vaccinated, my opinions or whatever. But if they came back to me and said, hey, it's a bit extreme, I kind of realized. I'm not going to be like, fuck you, I'm not going to be your friend because if this happens again, you're going to treat me the same way, blah, blah, blah. It's like, have some grace.
Yeah.
All these people talking about God, have some grace.
Yeah.
That's the only way that we mend these differences. Stop being what the other side that you're complaining about.
Yeah.
And this is why we have our shows, man. It's just like be able to see yourself live in the moment. It's one thing to be reflective and apologize later, but you want to do that over and over again so that you can see yourself live in the moment and behave accordingly. That's my rant on that. You don't need to go around hating people because they cut you out.
I love it, man. I 100% agree. I got to grab a charger for my computer before it dies really quick. You can see it's going to die, but
okay. Yeah,
I'll
no
be
worries.
right back.
100%. We'll pause.
No, we won't.
Okay, well, I'll keep it going.
Yeah, you can just talk.
I guess. I mean, hello, folks.
Hijack the show.
Yeah. I guess I'm just going to plug everything that I have going on. But I don't know. This is kind of weird now because I'm just by myself. I've done solo episodes on my own show, but I was just in a total rhythm with Mark here. But anyways, yeah, you know what? I will plug everything that I got going on. I have plug into the YouTube channel. My YouTube channel right now, as I explained earlier, is just throwing out a lot of single episodes to podcast interviews, and I'm not really editing them in any particular way. It's just kind of putting out the unedited versions, but it's just the building blocks of the content. I'm just kind of going on a spree of content creation, building the stock and putting it out there, but there's going to be all different types of content on there. Some vlog type stuff. I'm working on a documentary at the moment with Uplift Fitness. It's been going on for quite some time, but looking to finish that off this year and release that. I do hope to have some sort of trailer coming out pretty soon too, so check that out. I also probably going to have Jason on the pod as well to talk about that. I have an episode coming out with Mark on my show. I actually was just editing that today. So shameless plug to everything. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. It's a very slow, gradual dump of content, but once the steam picks up, you'll be glad that you did, hopefully. Not hopefully, you will. I promise the content will be killer. Just some even documentary stuff, some possible music stuff coming out. So all sorts of good things going on. That was my ad. I've never done that before. That was pretty cool.
It's a paid advertisement. He paid me for that, by the way.
Big time. Big time. With a lot of hugs.
A lot of hugs, a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
But, yeah, dude.
But yeah, I'll let you pick up on what I was saying. You kind of run with that.
Yeah, dude, I think that, I agree with you, man. I think a lot of people need to show a lot more grace. And I think that the idea that, because I had people that cut me off or that stopped talking to me or didn't want to hang out with me during that, the whole debacle.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, you got to kind of understand that people are going to hopefully learn from the mistakes that they've made,
right?
You know, and
we have to realize, like, they don't think they made a mistake. Right? When was the last time you did something knowing that you made a mistake?
yeah.
You know what I mean? They didn't think they made a mistake. And it's very hard to admit that you were wrong or didn't see it right. That's a very difficult thing to do as a human on both ends of the spectrum, because I tell you what, the people who are like hardcore right about like, you're not always right about this stuff either.
Just most of the time. But the thing is too is the thing I was going to say, this is what I was going to say. I forgot, but then I just remembered, is if you were outspoken during any of the lies that have happened in the last few years,
right,
about masks or vaccinations or anything political or anything that happened or the environmental stuff, or there's a fucking long laundry list of things that you could have been outspoken about, things that are quote unquote controversial.
100%.
Who are you speaking to?
Sorry, say that again. I don't think I understand.
When you're speaking out about these things, who are you speaking to?
When I speak out?
I'm saying in general.
Right.
Maybe you specifically, but I would assume.
Anyone, what are you saying?
I would assume when you're speaking out about these things, like a lot of the time people will fucking rag on me because I post shit about like gun control or I'll post things, you know, and this is my perception. When you're posting those things, you're trying to speak to the people that don't agree with you because you want to present a different way of looking at things, because you're not trying to coerce them or convince them, but you're just trying to say like, hey, have you thought of it this way? And you're trying to do it maybe in a funny way. That's a lot of the times that I do it. Right. Like when you're trying to be outspoken about these topics, a lot of the time you're not, and some people are, but a lot of the time you're not trying to speak to the people that already agree with you.
100%.
And the reason that you're doing that is because you love other human beings. You want them to understand the way that you see the world, or the way that there's another way to see the world.
Right.
And if you're not doing that out of compassion for one another, then why are you doing it? So the idea of cutting someone off because they don't align with your values or your beliefs, that's tribal shit. Like, that's
100%.
stupid, fucking dumb.
100%. Yeah, great point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
and
totally
so
see
if
that.
someone's coming around now and they're like,
Right.
hey, you know what, I was a little bit extreme about that, or maybe I
Right.
was completely wrong. If you have someone that says, hey, I was completely wrong, dude, you got to embrace that person.
You have not only embrace, but you have to give that person credit, because they probably have. I mean, to admit that you are wrong is very difficult in the first place. I think most people don't give enough of credit to people who could admit that. They're not all out there. You know what I mean? Some people will. Maybe you might not agree. They'll do that, but they'll like pepper it with some sort of "but I this, but I that."
Yeah, I told you so.
Right? Yeah. It's like, oh man, it was my bad, but I didn't think this, or they try to explain. When you're wrong, just say you were wrong. You know what I mean?
Dude, and if someone says to you, hey, I was wrong, you have to be able to look at that person with love and compassion and say, like,
100%.
dude, like, that's huge of you to admit that.
Right. Because if someone says, "Hey, I was wrong," and then you jump on them, be like, "See," and now you're trying to reinforce how right you are. In that moment, you've just exposed that you were no different from that person at all. It's the two same people.
Yeah,
in
it's
the same
still
car.
tribalism.
Yeah.
Like, it's still like, oh, we're on different sides still.
Yeah, it's just I'm really not for this tribal stuff, man. It's very I don't know, it's very un-Canadian in a sense. And even like if it's like small time positive stuff, I know people are like, just find your tribe, find your group, find your people. It's like, is that what we're gonna do? We're just gonna look for people that approve us and affirm us the way we are and love on us. We don't want anyone that might disagree or challenge us in the way that we think. How do you think we've come this far as a civilization? By agreeing? Absolutely not. You discover by seeing what's wrong, and that's why my philosophy is not. I used to live like that when I was much younger, I was naive. When you speak to people, trying to prove that you're right based on the information is a thing. It really is. But as I've matured, as I got into my later 20s and whatnot, I discovered it's not about who's right. It's about what's right. And in order to understand what is right, that requires so much self-reflection, so much attention on yourself to see yourself. You don't have any. You shouldn't even have enough energy to judge someone. You know what I mean? Like that, and get angry at them. It happens, but if you're self-aware, you should be able to see it pretty quickly that, hey, I can't always be judging people like that. I think the amount of, think about it this way: the amount of judgment that you throw out in the world, understand that is equally proportionate to how you judge yourself. You're just blind to the judgment that you have towards yourself.
Yeah. I think that a lot that comes in play a lot with people that are suffering, man, mentally, because there's like the ego is protecting them so much that they project their own things that they hate on themselves. They project that onto other people.
Yeah, 100%. But still, you should self-reflect and get over it. Doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that and I know so many people, and dude, I've been this person, and I will sometimes say this, not anymore. I'll say it maybe as a joke now, but I remember there was a long period of my life where I would joke about I fucking hate people. People annoy me. People piss me off. And I think that
that's why you love dogs so much.
Dude, I do love dogs. I fucking love dogs. But I think that the more disdain that you have for people around you is in direct proportion to how much you dislike yourself.
Or certain aspects of yourself. Right.
That you haven't uncovered yet.
Right. Yeah. And tell me this, you've done that. You're a fairly self-reflective person, obviously. To be able to sit here and even talk about these things, there's some level of self-reflection that you have, which I think is much more developed than the average person. But when you come across things about yourself that are nasty, they're like your dark side, is it easy to come to that terms yeah, this is me, this is also a part of me? Or is that a difficult thing for you?
It's difficult, man.
100%.
The way that I look at it is I don't like feeling bad. I don't like feeling negativity. I don't like feeling any negative emotions.
Right.
And it's not that I try and escape them. It's that when I feel those things, like there's a couple of different ways that I try and analyze it. Like I have become a lot more analytical of my own thoughts and the way that I have, that I've, maybe the way that my emotions are representative of my thoughts,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Right.
And what I do now is when I feel negative emotions, I try and, I journal often. And I journal on my computer, and I journal on pen and paper, and I journal when I speak to my phone.
Right.
And a lot of the times, if I feel negative emotions, I will think to myself, I'll kind of try and backtrack. Like I put on my detective hat and I think like, well, why do I feel this way?
Right.
And it's like, oh, because this person said this to me. And I think, okay, well, why did that make me feel this way? Because I say worse things like that than to most people, right? Like,
Right.
I'm pretty outspoken, and I have a very abrasive sense of humor sometimes.
Right.
And so I'll think, okay, why did what they say impact me the way that I did? Oh, because it brought up this memory.
Right.
Well, why did I have that memory? Why am I still hanging on to this memory from when I was 6 years old and forgot the lyrics in the Christmas concert in elementary school?
Okay.
And then I'll revisit that, and I'll think, well, why did I feel that way? Why was I so embarrassed by something that's so common?
Right.
And I'll think, okay, well, and I'll just keep diving into it of like, oh, I was just scared. I was scared of being abandoned. I was scared of being alone. I was scared of being, and I'll dive into that. Why was I? Why would that impact me so much?
Right. And does that help you get over it?
It helps me understand why I feel the way I do in a lot of situations, because I think that a lot of my negative emotions come from confusion or anxiety.
Right.
And I think that there's a lot of times that our emotions are rational. Like if if somebody does something to you that is clearly going to make you mad, then it's not a wonder why you're mad. Like someone cuts you off and you're like, fuck that guy. Then yeah, most of the time you're going to let it slide, but it's kind of understandable why that would make somebody mad. Like, or if I like punch you in the face.
Someone cuts you off, yeah.
Or if I like punched you, you'd be like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's very obvious why you'd feel that emotion.
Right.
But what I'm talking about is like, if I were to like, I don't know, like spill this cup of tea right now and you freak out.
Right.
Like, that's less rational.
Yes.
And then it's like, well, why did you freak out like that?
Right,
You know what I mean? Like, to dive into those things, I feel like it helps me in ways because it helps me understand what's a rational emotional response and what's an irrational emotional response.
Right.
And I think that you can start to, lessen the amount of irrationality that way.
Right.
And start to
like that's a disproportionate response to a tea spill.
Yeah.
Right. So you
and I think that it also helps you empathize with other people sometimes, because you'll see their irrational responses and you'll say, oh, it's not this that's bothering them. And so you kind of understand, you kind of understand, because sometimes like I'll be in a conversation with somebody, or you'll have a friend or maybe your girlfriend or your mother or whatever it could be, and they'll act irrationally sometimes through your perspective, or I can only speak to my perspective, where sometimes I see somebody's response to something and immediately my brain goes, I can't believe they're reacting like this. But when you start to do this type of reflection, you there's a few things you start to see. Is the first is, I've done that before, and then the second thing you start to see is, it's not this that they're reacting to, it's something else.
Right. Can I ask you a question? When somebody responds, let's say somebody responds to something that you did, whether it be a behavioral thing or whatever, do you ever think because their reaction might be negative or sometimes hurtful, do you ever think that rationalizing their thought process kind of helps you feel better about the situation?
What do you mean?
What I mean is, let's say someone like you, they respond to something that you did, right, in a negative light, and you're like, what the hell? You know what I mean? And you'll, like you said, you're like, I've done this before. It was tied to this. This is they're behaving this way because it's tied to something in their life. Do you think it makes you feel better about, like, you know, how you were acting, and you're like, you know, okay, maybe it's not me, it's them type of situation?
Does that make it better or worse? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Does it make you feel better where you're just like, because you're like, oh, I guess they're just mirroring something within them, like,
or
I'm
projecting?
I'm not really involved in this situation. It's just,
it depends on who it is,
right?
Because if it's somebody that I don't have to interact with very often, and like, say, like someone walking down the street and they freak out,
Yeah,
I'm just like, fucking best of luck, buddy.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. Like,
no kidding.
I'm not going to change my behaviors,
Right.
and I don't really care how you're reacting right now. Like,
Right.
I'm never going to see this fucking clown again.
Yeah.
That's legitimately what would go through my brain. I'd be
Right.
like, fucking best of luck, man.
Right.
Have fun reacting like that to the rest of the people that you interact with.
Right.
See how that takes you through life.
Right.
But if it's somebody that I love and somebody that I care about and somebody that I'm going to have to spend a lot of time with, maybe collaborate with work or whatever it could be, then it's like, we got to get to the bottom of this.
Right.
Because unless my behavior is actually destructive, if it is, then I need to course correct.
100%.
But if it's not a destructive behavior, if it's not really like, hey, you know, the way I drive really shouldn't impact you that much, or
Right.
whatever it is,
Right.
like, then it's like, okay, we got to get to the bottom of this, because this is going to be a reoccurring behavior of mine, and we
Right.
got to get to why this impacts you so much.
Right.
And then that's where compromise comes into play, because as much as that person needs to heal and go through whatever they need to go through so that they can react about, like, your behaviors in a more rational way,
Right.
it's going to be a bumpy road. It's not like someone could just be like, oh, this is how I need to fix myself, and now I can just do it like that.
Right.
Like, we're human,
100%.
and they need a grace period, right?
100%. I get what you're saying. No, totally.
So, like, there
Totally.
is some weird wiggle room and compromise there.
Yeah, it's like, it's the way, you know how you're talking about like your mood, and sometimes it can be erratic and whatnot, it's disproportionate. Like, the way I look at it is, I don't know, I lost the thought. I thought I was going to say something really good, but it's gone.
Try.
I can't remember. It's just gone. I'm dumb, bro. I've told you.
Oh, dude.
The fact that you even have me on here is already. No, I'm kidding.
I'm dumb. I allowed 25 minutes of fucking talking about sea creatures earlier.
Yeah.
So talk about
No.
dumb people, man.
No. But no, I get what you're saying, man. I guess my question was, well, it makes me think about, like, earlier when we're talking about when you go and let's say you do something like you were saying, right? And because what I was talking about is, like, you know, when you see when you've been wrong, like, is it a fun process? And you said, no, it's not. It's not fun to do.
Yeah, it sucks.
And you try to analyze it and understand it, right? And you go down this hole of, like, okay, well, and you come to this understanding, like, oh, when I was like 8 years old, you know, XYZ happened. It's been tied to me, and okay, now I know that this was it, and I'm gonna do my best not to do this again. But this behavior is attached to my trauma per se, right?
Why'd you air quotes that?
The trauma part?
Yeah.
Because I'm sick of that word, man. I
Okay.
just feel like it's thrown around.
Don't let them hijack it, man. It is a legitimate word.
Well, I guess it exists in the dictionary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay.
But beyond the way, I feel like the word trauma has been dragged through the dirt. You know, everyone in their
I know.
Just using it.
Don't let them hijack it, man.
They have
Use it-
already.
Yeah, well, they can use it their made up way, the same way that they fucking.
And I also use, like, you know, air quotes there, because I'm like, is that really traumatic? You know, is that
some people, dude? I think that. I'll say this,
But
and
that's
then
the
I'll
thing,
let you
right?
carry on your thought.
Okay.
I'll say this: the worst thing that happened to you is the worst thing that happened to you.
right? from a subjective perspective.
Yeah.
Right.
But carry on.
Right. But we have to, the word trauma it's a very traumatic, very like intense word.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you went through something intense doesn't mean we have to throw that word on it.
Okay.
Right?
Would it make you feel better if we just said intense experience that left an imprint on your subconscious?
It's much more clear. Yeah.
Okay.
It provides a lot more clarity. But I think because people just throw that word out, it's starting to lose its like luster. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because
yeah.
some people, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not saying it's a negative thing. It's just,
bro, it happens with so many words. Like it's
Yeah.
happening with racist or sexist.
Yeah, exactly.
But what I'm saying is, don't let them hijack it. We still need to be able to call what's racist racist. We still
Yes.
need to be able to call what's traumatic.
Yes,
Don't let them hijack it.
I understand. You're right.
We
Okay,
need
so I'll
to
go back
use it
to-
legitimately.
Okay. So in this okay, fine.
And then when they use it illegitimately, you laugh at them.
Oh. I'll be laughing all day. But what was I saying? Yeah, about your like in a situation where you see that you were wrong and you did something dumb, and then you try to like analyze it, and you find out that it's traced back to some childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Okay, and
He's still air quote that for people that just listen to the audio.
but recently I've been thinking, I'm like, why do we need to go down that rabbit hole to try to understand so we can feel better about our wrong behavior? I feel like if we just stop and be like, okay, what I just did was X, Y, and Z, and I shouldn't do it again.
I think that when you do those deep dives, it helps you understand the loop.
Or sometimes is it just helping you to kind of shed a little bit of responsibility with your...
I think it's taking responsibility.
Really?
Yeah,
because if you attach it to your trauma per se, and you're like, okay, I'm acting this way because when I was XYZ old, XYZ happened.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I behave this way. Is that, to me, sometimes that sounds like, you're trying to attribute a lot of your, sometimes laziness, or sometimes you're just, not wanting to do shit, or whatever it is, you just don't want to, it's easy to kind of just throw that into the trauma bin.
Yeah, I agree with you if you just shrug it off and you're
Right.
like, oh, this happened to me, so I'm just like this, and that's the way I am, and I'll always be that way, and fuck it.
Or
like
it's my anxiety.
And you have to adapt to me.
Yeah.
That's where I agree with you.
Right.
But I think that doing that kind of diagnosis, and maybe this will be a better way to think of it as well, because you can, like, you say your car gets a check engine light, right?
Right.
I have a, it's not a very expensive machine. You can go and grab them at Lordco. You can get a little thing that plugs into the computer of your
code
car,
reader,
and you can delete that check engine code. You can just delete it.
Right.
Right?
I see.
Or you can ignore it.
Right.
Or you can look into what caused this error code.
100%. I actually like that. No, I totally agree with you.
That's what I'm saying, is like understanding what started this, because a lot of it is like a cyclical thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like this thing set me off, and then I reacted this way. And what I'm saying is you figure out why you reacted that way,
right? So
you can kind of work on that yourself internally.
Yes, I was kind of playing a little bit of devil's advocate there. I totally agree with that. Like you should be able to, not be able to.
You got to be able to name the beast. That's
right.
The thing is you have to be able to name the beast so that you can defeat it.
Right, because the beast is within, and I think it's important, and that's the process of self-awareness, getting to know yourself, right, your dark side. And the reason I just kind of air quoted the trauma thing is because, yeah, I just find like, today's day and age, people just like to, they hear terms like, oh, my mental health is this, or it's my anxiety, and these words shed a lot of responsibility.
Oh, dude.
And it's like you're seeing the effect of that type of language. You're seeing that effect now just being played out in society today.
Oh, dude.
Big time amongst adults, like full-grown adults.
Oh,
I can't, bro. I can't explain to you some of the stuff that I see in public these days.
My biggest beef with this type of shit is the amount of people that blame ADHD for things nowadays, and that's coming from someone that's been fucking at an early age diagnosed with ADHD. I was on ADHD medication,
like Ritalin and stuff.
Oh, bro. And I will fucking say that I am tired of seeing people that blame, oh, it's because of my ADHD, when they literally do nothing but behaviors that kill attention span,
Right.
that kill focus.
Yeah.
All they do is they go on social media. They're just looking for dopamine rushes consistently. They
Right.
don't do anything that actually develops. They look at things that are skills that
Right.
need to be developed,
Right.
and they don't have those skills,
Right.
and they say, I don't have that skill, like being able to focus on something for a long period of time, being able to sit still for a long period of time,
Right.
being able to work on something for an extended period of time,
Right.
or like have any discipline at all, or have any patience at all.
Right.
And they think, I don't have those things, and so I can't have those things. And it's irritating to me because I think those are skills, and though you might not have been born with those skills,
Right.
that doesn't mean you can't develop them. And what you have to do is stop the things that are hindering the development of those things and start doing things that develop those things.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Bro, I'm obviously hyperactive in many different ways. Like if you were to watch an episode of any of my episodes and sped it up, it would just be me flailing around. Like I literally move the entire time. I'll change positions. I'll
Yeah.
play with my cup. I'll play with a water
Yeah, I know,
bottle.
you're big on touching the mic.
Yes, dude.
Yeah.
I'll play exactly. Like
Yeah.
I'm consistently moving.
Right.
But there's things that I do to curb those things. Like I'll go before I do any interviews, I always work out first.
Yes.
Like before this, I went for a big run.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I texted you. I remember you telling me I just got back from a
I'll
run.
always work out so that it calms me down enough that I can sit still for a long period of time.
Right.
And that's part of the reason why I read in a journal. That's part of the reason why, is because it forces me to sit down, put my phone aside, and just focus on one task in a quiet room where of course I want to jump on social media. Of course I want to watch Netflix. Of course I want to watch YouTube.
Right.
But it's like I'm going to push those things out of my brain and just focus on this one thing.
And that's, and you're a perfect example of what I was saying, where you're utilizing this means to take responsibility for your life versus the opposite.
Exactly.
It's like, and that's the main difference. I think you're a great example. I think you're an example that people should aspire to be.
I appreciate that. I don't really agree 100%.
Or at least your approach on trying to see yourself and better yourself. You know what I mean? That is that's duplicatable. It's very simple. And I think you take responsibility for yourself. I think if we just had just a tiny bit more of that here in this side of this country, you know what I mean? I think we'd see a lot of things change very, very quickly.
I 100%
Very, very
agree.
quickly. So.
Just saying, we're going to be closing up soon. I
Yes,
want to invite you to think of a last topic if you want to bring something up. I know you were talking about sports earlier. We can talk about anything you like for the last, I'd say we got 10 minutes left because it's almost 9:30 and I'm going to be going to bed soon.
Is it already? I thought okay. Yeah, I got to get to bed too. Let's go. Did you have one in mind? Did you have a question?
No, the floor is yours, man.
Okay. No, I was just with the sports thing.
Yeah.
I remember you giving me some flack for Super Bowl, watching Super Bowls and stuff. And what you were saying is it's just a distraction.
Bread and circus, baby.
Bread and circus, baby. Yeah, no, 100%. But let me ask you this then. Let's say,
I know what you're going to say, but go ahead.
What am I going to say?
Just go ahead.
Okay, let's say.
So I can say I knew, but.
Then say it.
I think that what you're going to bring up is, for example, anything I watch is the equivalent.
No, I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
But but I'm going to say, what I want to say is I think, for example, do you watch any UFC?
I sort of do.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you, listen, man, you come out of the closet with it, there's nothing to be ashamed of.
I do.
Yeah.
I'll watch the way that I watch anything.
Right.
Is the same way I play video games.
Right.
And it's always while I'm editing. So while I'm listening to my own podcast, I'll have something going on the other screen.
I think your grief that you have towards people who watch sports are the guys that are just over the top with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
fantasy leagues, and they know everything about these guys' relationships in their personal lives, so they can make the trades in their fantasy league
It's
over
men's,
the top.
It's men's reality TV.
Right, because this aspect of watching competition has been around for centuries. You know what I mean? It's an actual part of entertainment.
Bread and circus.
Well, like kings and queens would attend these things. You know what I mean? Like you would watch like Gladiator and whatnot. Like I think watching.
That's because that's where it came from, bro.
Right, yeah. And
bread and circus.
Watching competition like that.
That's why the Colosseum was built, was for bread and circus, to distract other people while they made political moves.
Yes, like I'm not going to argue that. There is definitely an aspect to it, right? But I think people have to accept, like, listen, bread and circus can only work if the people are dumb. You know what I mean? And
most people are.
Yeah, and that can be taken. That type of power can be taken back if you empower yourself. You know what I mean? But for as long as the individual constantly is just loopy, yeah, it'll be bread and circus. But I don't. I guess I would say is, I don't think there's anything wrong with someone wanting to take an afternoon to entertain themselves watching a playoff game or watching a UFC fight or going, like, have you ever gone to a live event with people, like actual? That's especially a playoff game. I don't think you've ever been to a playoff game. That's a different game. But
that's because they don't happen in Vancouver.
I actually went to one. I went to that Game 7 that year where they made
infamous Game 7
against the
Boston Bruins.
No, I thought no, it wasn't the Stanley Cup Finals. I wasn't dishing out $1,400 a seat to not see my Leafs.
Go to a riot. Yeah,
but I did go to the Game 7 against the Blackhawks that same year, where they won. That ended up sending them to the entire down the entire road.
That was when I cared about hockey.
Bro, that was, I don't care what you say about bread and circus, blah, blah, blah. That was the most unbelievable experience ever, man. Like the energy in that crowd and just everyone. Or like when you watch Sidney Crosby score that golden goal. You know what I mean? I think there's a place for sports.
I do. As much as I rag on it, I got to say, I feel the same way about seeing live music.
Yeah.
Concerts.
Yeah,
I do love
and it's
concerts.
because there's an admiration for the art that they have, right?
Yeah.
And that's another thing. Like I admire these athletes that are willing to just put it all on the line. And I also play myself, like, and you couldn't go pro yourself. You admire the guys who could. Like I loved watching Tom Brady play throughout his career. Just a meticulous, just like the amount of prep. It's having admiration for them.
Yeah.
And
I think I got very bitter for a while in my life when I started understanding that I think it came from, and this relates back to what we were talking about earlier. I think that a lot of it came from feeling like I wasn't doing enough to chase my own dreams.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling like while I was watching sports one day, I was thinking, I'm watching other men do what they love to do, and I'm sitting on my couch eating a fucking bag of Cheetos.
100%. No, I totally.
And there was this inherent depression that sunk in.
Yes.
Thinking, I'm watching another man do what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yes.
Not that I can play sports to a caliber of that level.
Right. But I know what you mean.
It's going after their thing.
Right. Yeah, I heard, like, if you're watching a screen, it's as simple as you watching someone living out their dream, no matter what you're watching.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. You're watching someone live out their dream.
And I think that I can come to terms with it a lot more now because I am pursuing what I love and I'm pursuing what I believe is my purpose on this earth. And I think that
I totally get it, man. I totally get it. Because sorry, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
I just think that being able to unwind and being able to watch something for entertainment or for education or whatever it could be, motivation even. Like, dude, I was going to say I do watch fights. I love watching fights, to be 100% honest with you.
It's competition, do I.
And even, I don't know if you watch UFC. Do you watch UFC?
Oh, yes.
Did you watch that last Izzy Pereira fight?
I missed the knockout.
Oh, dude.
I missed the knockout.
I always...
I showed up literally 5 minutes late.
I always watch them the next day because they always run a little late for me.
Right.
And I watch them while I edit.
Right.
And so I'll watch it with the sound off and I'll be listening to my podcast and I'll be watching the fight. And I literally had to replay it with sound from the intros because it was so fucking epic.
Yes.
And I yelled and I made Teddy come from the other room and watch it with me. And I cranked the sound and you could hear every leg kick, everything. And she was like, oh, every time. And when Izzy won, first of all, he did this epic thing where he put an X through the monster symbol.
Yeah, I heard it.
And then the other thing, dude, he grabs the mic from Joe Rogan and he says, it's so epic, dude. He says, I don't think that most people will be ever be able to feel how happy I am.
Right.
And my one wish is that you guys could feel how happy I am right now, that I've finally achieved this thing that I've been trying to achieve for so long.
And he said, hopefully, I want everyone to experience it at least once.
Yeah.
What I get to experience again and again and again.
Yeah.
No, I get where you're coming from. I think we kind of found some middle ground on it, because I think the group of men that you're talking about are grown men out of shape, sitting at home watching athletes with their name on their back. You know what I mean? Like, you yourself have a last name. What are you wearing with someone else's name on your back?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, go out there, especially if you have a family. You know what I mean? You should set the example. If you're going to watch, like, I went to a Canucks game recently, just one of their last ones, and I saw a family, like, they brought their kids who probably play minor league hockey, and these guys are like 8, the kids, 8, and you can see the excitement on their face, just how they're being children, you know what I mean? It was so, it was like a epic thing that they could sit in those seats and watch some of these guys who are older do something that they're doing, that they're trying to aspire for. I think there's a place for sport. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Especially in today's world. But that was it. That's all I wanted to see. I thought it'd be a bit more adversarial than that, but I think we came to.
No, I'm coming around, man. And like I said, I am able to acknowledge, and this is, dude, you got to say, this is kind of, it comes to full circle from what we were saying. I was being judgmental because I felt that inside.
Right. Yeah. Actually, you know that's what I wanted to say, is that anyone that's a dude out there, man, you have to understand how you feel, like how good you feel about yourself, is directly going to be proportionate to how useful and valuable you are to society. If you're a useless person, you're going to feel like shit. That's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. As a man, you need to work. You need to go out there. You need to bust your ass. You need to have your emotions in check. You need to do some hard shit. You need to suffer. That's what's going to give you that feeling that you want. You want to dodge these things, enjoy depression. It's that simple. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And depression is, call it whatever you want. I mean, I question whether it even exists on a clinical level these days, but I don't know. I have to look into it a little bit more. But it's that simple. You can't avoid the suffering. That's what will relieve you of your depression.
Yeah. It was also like I said, it was a fresh thing for me. Like when I think when we had that conversation was when I was just like, I just stopped watching sports, and I was like, all like, you know, when people make huge changes in their lives, the first thing that they do, I feel like, is beat up on a part of themselves and project that on other people. Like, I see this a lot because I interview a lot of different people that some people come from, some people are doctors, some people come from like out of recovery from drug addiction, mm-hmm. and some people are like, they come from maybe being obese and then they're super in shape, or some mm-hmm. people come from being really poor and then they go into having like a successful business life. Mm-hmm. And what I notice is a lot of people that hate their past selves project that on other people, and they hate that aspect of other people. Like, you'll see a lot of people that are maybe ex-drug addicts, and they see someone that drinks like maybe once a week or once a month, or they're able to control their consumption, and they'll be like, anyone that drinks is a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just because they had that issue and they hate that about their past.
Right.
So they look at anybody that uses drugs or uses alcohol, and they're like, that person is the fucking devil. That person fucking. Or they look at someone that is going through a financial hard time, and they're like, pull yourself up from your bootstraps. Right. Like, if you're in poverty, you're a fucking lazy piece of shit.
Yeah.
You know, like they see a part of themselves from the past that they haven't come to terms with, and they haven't forgiven themselves for, they hate themselves for, and they project that on other people. And
Yes.
and I think that I was experiencing that at that point, and I think that that's why maybe I was so brash about it. And I think that now that I'm seeing it in other people, I'm starting to understand that in myself and in them.
That's amazing. That's amazing, man. That last line that you said, to be able to see it in yourself. I think to be able to see it in other people it only means one thing, that you saw it within first.
Yeah.
Because what you see within is going to be directly proportionate with how the depth of the world that you can see on the out. If you know yourself on a shallow level, you're going to see the world from a very shallow perspective.
Mm-hmm.
If you lie to yourself, people will lie to you, and you'll fall for every single one, and you'll get mad at them. But it's because you can't seem to handle the truth within.
Mm-hmm.
That's my theory. That's my theory. That's one of my theories in life, and so far, like, it seems to hold water every time I go around. Like, you can see shallow people. Like, it's just directly proportionate to how well they know themselves. And to your point earlier, just on this last thought, is what you were saying is, for someone who suffered with something, like drinking, and the drinking becomes the devil, there's also people on the opposite end where something kind of saved them. And that becomes their new, like, almost idolization and obsession.
Mm-hmm.
And they think that'll solve anyone who's kind of struggling what they're struggling with. This thing that they found is going to solve all their problems, which isn't necessarily the case. The perfect example that I had is like with people, when I took ayahuasca twice, I found that community to be very...
I was going to say mushroom people, but bro,
yeah,
DMT
ayahuasca, bro. When I took ayahuasca, not all of them, but there were some people that were like, yo, ayahuasca will... This is
Save
it.
your life.
Yeah, this is it. Mother ayahuasca is going to just blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I found that that type of mentality exists everywhere.
Yeah,
But shall we call it a day?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a beautiful place to wrap it up.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I love coming on here, man. This is, every time we do this, I never feel like we get to everything that we want to talk about, which is probably why.
That's why we do so many. Is this round 5 or round 6?
I think at this point, I'm just going to be called a daily contributor to the show.
I think we need to think of a series name for this.
100%. Yeah, let's do that.
I can't right now, but
yeah, but my brain is.
We'll have to think of something because
maybe we can ask the audience something that if they've watched, if they can leave in the comments something that they think would work for us.
Yeah, what do you guys think that we should call this?
Muslim plus white.
Muslim plus white.
Hey, who knows? I don't know.
You like to? That's very liberal of you. I think a liberal person would do that.
A Muslim plus white.
Yeah, because they gotta. I think that they would say it would be like. I just can't call it that on my podcast because then I'd be that white guy being like, "This is my Muslim friend."
Who cares? I don't have a problem with it. You know what I mean? Let them think that. Yeah, let them think I'm your slave. Gives a fuck.
Whoa, nobody said that. But it's how I get my. It's how I get my. My virtue. Yeah. It's how I get my virtue.
I'll be your token brown friend.
Dude.
You can call me Token like they do in
South Park.
Yeah.
Dude, that's so funny, man. The token black kid named Token. That's the best, dude.
Yeah, but, throw that idea out there. We'll start a series for sure.
All right, yo. We got to find a name for that. Oh, I just pinched my finger in my mic thing. But that's what I get for playing with the mic.
100%.
But
too fidgety. Do some meditation, bro.
No kidding. I should get like a Rubik's Cube. I should see if I could solve a Rubik's Cube before I finish an interview one day.
I think I know what to give you for our interviews.
For one of those fidget spinner things?
That would help. That would help.
What were you going to say?
A Rubik's Cube. But you know what else came to mind?
What?
That stupid like little scene on TV thing that they sold, that dumbbell weight that shakes and you can work out. Just hand you one of those. Just like
just off screen, just jerking it off screen. Fuck. All right, that's what we're calling
doing your exercise.
That's what we're calling it. Thank you guys so much. Much love. Peace out. Check out Hussain's podcast. Everything You Got podcast. Check out his YouTube channel. Check out everything.
Thank you so much. Thank you, man. Honestly, appreciate that. Thank you, everybody.
Much love and peace out.